So welcome back, everybody. This is Paul again, and I guess this is number 6 in a series I've been making about esoteric studies. And what I've been trying to do is take little bits and pieces of esoteric knowledge and various subjects, is very, very vast, and put them together with modern observations and things I know and things that are in popular discussion today, and get some kind of an idea of what esoteric teachings are really all about. There's a lot of cosmology involved, there's a lot of science and geometry, but there's a lot of psychology, and essentially it's all about psychology. It's all about who we are, because our ability to observe anything and analyze anything all depends on us having some kind of an identity, some kind of an awareness. We're here. We look around, we have perception, we have different senses. Now, what the teachers say is, look, you got to focus your senses as much as possible. And it's standard practice and everything. You want to accomplish anything great, you focus your attention, you gather your senses together, you integrate your perception so that you can accomplish certain things. But along the way, a lot of times what's missing is that people don't even ask, well, who are we? Who's perceiving, you know? Are there limits to our perception? I mean, are there possibly things that we could see more, perceive more, understand more? Maybe we're just like, you know, maybe a bird's in a cage and it thinks the only thing, you know, it's just all about a cage. But they don't even know that there's a whole vast area that they could explore. So what I'm trying to get into in this segment is about esoteric psychology, and I hope it's one of the best segments I make, because it's really all about who we are. Who is that person? What is that being, you might say, that's just looking out the window, the window of our eyes, and it's looking at all this stuff. And we're just born here. We don't have an identity imposed on us. So some religions, as soon as we're born, you get to do certain things to us. But along the way, we get to be an adult. We start thinking, well, wait a minute here. What am I doing here? What's going on? Now, the esoteric teachings, they start talking about perception. I made a few notes here. I'll show them to you here. And pause and look back at this, I guess, and a lot of key words. So, the perception that we have, I want to read something from this really, really beautiful book. This is an interpretation or a commentary on a very famous book called the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And I want to read just a few sutras. There's some really, really important things that he says here. It's all about our perception. The basis of correct perception or correct knowledge is correct perception, correct deduction, and correct witness or accurate evidence. One of the most revolutionary realizations which the student has to adjust himself is the appreciation that the mind is a means whereby the knowledge is to be gained. In the West, it's been mostly held that the mind is that part of the human mechanism which utilizes knowledge. Okay, now stop and think about that for a second here. The mind, when it's collected, according to meditation, we get the mind into a being. That collective mind, which is an assembly and integration of all the senses, you harness the senses, and you bring them back to oneness. The senses go out, they divide, they distinguish. That has a role in our understanding and so on, in our perception. But beyond the mind, beyond the senses, there's a mind. There's a being, there's a conscious being here that actually is really neutral. It doesn't have a personality. You know, babies are born, they don't have like a big ego. They just are there perceiving. So In fact, many animals are like that. They just don't have a concept of who they are, really. They just see stuff. They perceive stuff. But the human being is able to perceive much, much more than we're actually told. So that's the whole idea of esoteric knowledge. So he goes on to say here that we have to realize that the mind is intended to be an organ of perception. Only this will arrive at a right understanding of this science. So our mind is a collection of the senses, and we have to harness it, okay? We have to get it to a beam and get it to a focus, and then that entirety of our awareness, that oneness of our awareness becomes this beacon, and it enters this rain cloud of unknowable things. This is a beautiful phrase. It's sort of like our own inner consciousness is our soul, which is the subject of universal life. That's one way of saying S-O-U-L, soul. There's a constant perceiver going on, and we're linked to it. So what we need to do is build that bridge. You see, we build that bridge from the superconscious awareness that is like, you know, our perception are a few seconds ahead of us. You know, there's some part of our inner being that is superconscious. I call it the superconscious. Some people call it the subconscious. I call it, that's our real nature. There's some part of our being that's constantly perceiving all these subtle things around us, very, very subtle, and integrating it. But our thought processes is way behind. It's just like, can't catch up with that. So we need to integrate our own, we need to build a bridge. There's a word for it called the antakarana. I probably spelled it wrong. But it's about integrating our daily awareness so that when we're walking around, I use this example. Supposing you're in a car and all the windows are up and you're driving down, you can look out the window and you can see certain scenery. You have a certain amount of awareness of what's out there. But then let's say you roll the windows down and now you have a very different experience. You have like, okay, now you can feel the wind and the temperature and all that. So you're driving down the road and you can feel that. Now, what if you had a totally, like an open vehicle, a convertible? Now you're sort of inside the car and outside at the same time. If you understand, by living our life, we're building this bridge where our daily life, we don't have to go into these dreams, or we don't have to go into, you know, we don't have a big barrier between our superconscious, subconscious, whatever, and our daily life, so that life is a lot more clear, so that we are moving like a laser. It's just, everything is clear. We don't need to have this buffering effect, like, okay, you know, buffering. Well, you have a really, really busy day, and you have no time to think about anything, and weeks and years go by, and then you have all these crazy dreams because you're so busy doing your routines in life that you can't even catch up with some other things, like maybe health issues. So what I'm saying is that this whole process of knowing who we are starts with the recognition that we have that possibility. You know, we're not like riding a little motor scooter where we have a UFO that could go in all kinds of places. So there's a lot to learn. Now, I want to go through some of these words here. Esoteric psychology, it starts with, again, the oneness. We essentially are an integrated one being. There's nothing else. The whole idea of splitting personalities and so on, that can happen in some sort of illusion, and it does, but essentially, if you go for the factor or the principle of oneness, you say, okay, even inside the most fractured personality, there's a oneness of being. And what we have to do is, again, build that bridge. We have to find out what's going on there so that the person can integrate some other aspects of their subtle perception. For example, a person might be very disturbed because they're having really strange dreams, but they don't know why they're having strange dreams, you see? So there might be some unresolved thing that they have no clue. Maybe something happened a long time ago. Now, if we live more consciously, then a lot of these kinds of things get resolved very easily, maybe through our dream life, and we have a rough day, and we have a bad dream, and it's no big deal. Okay, the life goes on. But then things can accumulate, you see. So the whole idea is to integrate our senses to build that bridge between our superconscious so that we have an awareness of who we are. The questions: who is perceiving? Okay, there was one famous teacher in India. His name is Ramana Maharishi. Long time ago, I think it was the late 1800s. Anyway, he was very simple practice. He didn't really have a high education. He had an early experience, and he had been apparently, born with all the aptitude and readiness and everything. And he just, early in his life, he had a profound experience, and he just began to teach. And he kept saying, well, just ask who you are. Who is it? Who's there in dreaming? Keep asking that question. Wow, most people don't think about that question. Even starting on our journey, asking, well, who are we then? Am I this body? Is that it? Am I this skin just sloughed off? I mean, what am I? So, eventually, if you ask that question enough times, and not just, the answer is not like a word, you see, it's experience. But, again, who is perceiving? How is perceiving? What is it? Our senses are limited, aren't they? A lot of animals see, perceive totally different than we do. So what is it that we're perceiving? How are we perceiving? What is out there? What is it? Is it we're seeing light, we're seeing movement, we're seeing heat. We don't even see heat. Snakes can see heat. A lot of animals can see heat. We don't see magnetism. Other animals can see for things that we don't see. So you start asking that question, well, I don't see much compared to other animals. I don't know what I'm seeing. I don't even know who's seeing it. So you start getting into some really deep stuff here. So the teachers of the past, esoteric teachings, say, look, there's an integration in the geometry of nature. Okay, there's an integration in the harmony in everything. So therefore, it's also in you. And if it's in you, you need to explore that inner dimension of awareness because it's super vast and it's super exciting. So when we get our whole being, basically, the whole idea, like you talk about the chakras and alignment or whatever, the idea is to get like a whole system going on, that we don't need to think about what's in our stomach or what's in our throat or what's in our whatever. We want to be functioning as a fully integrated beam of perception so that we're experiencing life in a very full way and in a very clear way. Now, enhanced perception, we're talking about that. Very, very important. Non-reaction to senses, because you train ourselves to not react to the senses. We don't have to taste everything that's sweet. We don't have to smell everything that's nice. We don't have to do everything to understand. And we don't need to react. There's things that we might perceive more of if we didn't react. You see, nature is kind, that they let us not perceive certain things. You see, we wouldn't want to smell everything, for example. Now, know the essence. When we know something, what is knowing? We want to know the essence of everything. There's a saying in the book, the Upanishads, called about once you know one piece of gold, everything you know about gold you know about, because it's all gold. You see, so essentially the universe is one commodity, you might say, and one wholeness, and the closer we get in our own experience to integration and wholeness, then we're going to understand our existence. Now, we need a little identity. A lot of people, I think the whole idea of the ego, just throw the whole concept out. Just like, we got to have something. We got a vehicle here. We're here to grow and perceive, and the question is, in other words, the problem really comes when people start identifying and getting like all selfish about it. Like everybody has a right to say, well, I'm proud of being a human being. What an amazing experience. I'm going to go through this life incredibly confidently and deliberately, and I'm not going to be like a worm, and I'm not going to crawl. I'm just going to go energetically and have some power behind what I do. But I'm not attached to it. I'm not like, I know that I'm going to get off the horse at the end. Like you're in a boat, you know you're going to get out of the boat at the end of the day, but while you're in that damn boat, you got the power on and you're moving all kinds of places and doing stuff. So the whole idea of your identity, ultimately in the concept of oneness, there's one identity. You know, there's one huge identity that perceives the cosmos, that is the cosmos, and that our link, that bridge that I'm talking about, lets us participate in it fully in amazing ways, and still not get so attached to it that we realize, hey, I'm going to have my fun while I'm alive. I'm going to do some incredible stuff with this body. I'm going to know some amazing things. I'm going to have a lot of bliss. And when I'm done, man, okay, I'm flying away like a bird. So the body is like our chariot, you see. The senses are like our reins, and the mind controls the senses. If the mind is not controlling the senses, then what happens? The chariot goes crazy, see? Now, you could be a really skilled chariot, but not really go very many places. You might go around the track, you see? So the whole idea is to say, wait a minute, my chariot can fly. I don't need to just go around the track. So that's the whole idea. The activities, have human activities in life that expand our awareness. Why? Every day say, hey, today I'm going to expand my awareness. By the end of the day, I'm going to know something more. I'm going to meet some new people. I'm going to have another dimension of my awareness at the very end of this one day. So the whole idea is to expand our awareness. Now, we need to pay attention to our body because it is our vehicle. And, well, it's got a lot of features that we don't know about, you see. It's got all kinds of stuff that we don't know about and not told about. And we have a lot more control over this body. We can have a lot more influence even on the healing of our body if we take a little more responsibility for it. Our emotions and everything work through our nerves and our glands, and it's well known. And in ancient teachings of psychology, that they knew about something in there. They could feel if you're a yogi and you fast and you empty your body and you have no other influences, you can feel every piece of your body. And that's how they learned a lot of this stuff. They knew, hey, I got something going on down there. I got this energy over here, and I got this energy over here, and there's an energy in my throat, and there's an energy in my head. And they got a lot of important information from their own personal observation. Now in modern days, we have DNA. We know it's a memory. We can incredible amount of memory. I told you, intrinsic memory in the universe. It's DNA. It's amazing. Life memory. It's incredible. And how much DNA in the world? It's like every cell's got some. It's like amazing. So, wow. Sound and light affect DNA and electric vibrations. So if we expose ourselves to certain kinds of lights and sounds and don't expose ourselves to the bad stuff and electromagnetic waves, then, our DNA can be improved or affected or stimulated or whatever. Now, our awareness, consciousness is not divisible. See, that's another profound thing. Again, it's about the oneness of the awareness, that you can't cut the ocean. You can't cut a river. There's a universality about awareness that is found. It's even it's in plants, and it's in animals, and it's in bugs, and it's like in soil, it's like in mushrooms, and it's just consciousness has infinite ways of expressing itself. It's inherent in the cosmos. So awareness is a spectrum and a gradient. You can't really measure it. It's hard to. You can't really say, well, that animal or that person is on that level of consciousness. Well, how do you know? I mean, you can't. Where's the map? So now I want to go through a few books here. It's really important to know that our body is full of energy. A lot of people know this stuff already. Some auras, there's a lot of concepts and ideas about the aura, but we know that there's an energy field. There's various parts of our body that are more energy active, and there's circulation, there's nerves, and all that. So we have an energy system. We have an integrated system, and we need to harness it all. Part of that is by breathing, exercise. I mentioned bringing dreams to life. A lot of people get a lot of information from their dreams. Just briefly, I'll talk about the astral body. You know, a lot of people have talked about the astral body, and you know, honestly, my years of meditation, I've had so-called astral experience. Dreaming is like an astral experience. It's kind of like, okay, let's say this consciousness is a big department store, and you can go to a whole bunch of stuff, and you can go to the junk rooms, and you can go to where they're selling jewelry. So, I don't know. I want to go to the highest state of consciousness I can get to, and the peace is there. I'm not sure I want to go back to Atlantis and see what my dog's name was, but some people get some very helpful information from astral travel. And there are people who are gifted with it, and I understand, and that would be, okay, use it for a good reason, and a lot of them do. So it's just a matter of a person who does any kind of psychic and experiments with their awareness. They just should try to keep their body in pretty good shape and not mess around with any nasty stuff. So basically, the concept of initiation I want to bring up here, because it comes up a lot in esoteric teaching. What is an initiation? Like, oh my God, I'm going to get my initiation and I'm going to graduate to the next level. Well, initiation is basically the concept that, you know, like a transmutation, you move to a new level of understanding, and, you know, it's a spectrum. It's like just knowing that we're not this body. That's a big transition. See, once people know they have a dream or a religious experience or something, and they go, I'm not this body, oh man, that's a profound change in their whole life. So the esoteric teaching said that there are great beings in this universe and this in the solar system, and they also take initiations. They, like a star, might take initiation, or a planet might take initiation, and they, you know, gather their energies and focus point, and they move into another dimension of activity. The soul and its mechanism, again, book by Alice Bailey, you know, about the nature of our body and the soul, and the mechanism is our body. Fantastic book. One of my favorite books, the Upanishads. Breath of the Eternal. What a beautiful book this is. You see, I really recommend this book. You just sit and read this. I get so much out of it. He who dwells in all beings, but is separate from all beings, whom no being knows, whose body all beings are, and who controls all beings from within. He, the capital Self, the inner ruler, the immortal. He dwells in order, in speech, in sight, in hearing, and touch, is separate from them, whom odor, speech, sight, hearing, and touch do not know, whose body is odor, speech, sight, hearing, and touch, but who controls them all from within. He is the Self, the inner ruler, the immortal. Well, profound words of wisdom, because, again, this is all about knowing our real self. And I want to use the one analogy again about the rider on the horse, that it's so important for a human being just to know that, look, this vehicle that we have, this body, is like the horse that we're riding on. And once you understand that, look, I'm just riding on this horse, instead of feeling like you're going through life like someone's kicking you all the time, you come into the consciousness of saying, I'm riding this is my existence, this is my life, I am going to manage it, take the reins of it, and direct it where I want, and not only around the track, but I'm going to go off and where I'm going to want to take this horse and pony and chariot wherever the heck I want to go. Our own desire to expand will bring us a tremendous amount of really great revelations. I want to quote a couple more things here. Incorrect knowledge is based upon perception of the form and not upon the state of being. That's really, really important. Think about that for a minute. Incorrect knowledge is based upon the perception of a form, but not upon the state of being. So you can look at another animal or another person and you only see a shape or whatever, but you're not seeing the whole being. It's the same way we're not seeing the cosmos the way it really is until we stop reacting to what we perceive, and we tend to have concepts in how things have to be, and that's what I'm trying to get away from. I'm trying to tell people, look, there's an awful lot of different ways of presenting this material. It gets down to simple things like spheres and circles and geometry on the physical level, but in the human level too, it's also all about the unity of our own being with the immortality of the cosmos that we live in. There's no separation here. We can't go anywhere. We can't go to that we're in this totality of beingness. Consciousness is indivisible, and it permeates everything all the way through our DNA and permeates. It's just so pervasive and permeating that consciousness perceives the cells in our body and everything, and makes everything happen. So when we drop the barrier of our thinking mind and chatter, you might say, and just let our consciousness be, just let it. That's when you get, where you can drop the reins, because you don't have to control your senses anymore if you just get to a restful place, and then you can let your consciousness just exist in that neutral place instead of feeling like you're always running a chariot. You see, we need to get to a place where, okay, I'm stopped now, and then I'm now feeling my own individuality in beingness, but I don't have to put anything after the I am. I breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And there's a pause in between each one of those breaths, and in that pause and that silence and that space, in the infinite space of the pause, the universe has that grace that flows in every rhythmic motion. You see, it's a very profound thing, and that's why who we really are is found through inner meditation and quietness. And so I think I've said enough in this particular video. I got 28 minutes here on the clock. Just show you real quickly here some of the notes. I think I'll try to take pictures of these and